You're listening to Legacy Lawyers, hosted by Michael Haslam and Nathan Croxford.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Legacy Lawyer podcast. With me today is Brian Edwards. What's up, Brian?
Not much. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing great. I'm excited for our episode today. Today we're going to be talking about who is the CEO of your legacy.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about it before this, and it's a definitely a topic that I don't know. I guess I never thought about it before I started working here. Like, I didn't even think about how this could be a thing, and so I'm excited for it today and to be able to present it and walk through it.
Yeah. So if any of our listeners is a business owner, this will really feel familiar and hit home. If you're not, it's totally okay. It's just an example. It's kind of an analogy. It would work with, a sports concept or whatever you're into, but the bottom line is you always get the right outcome if you approach things the right way. So if we think about a business, especially successful business, there's different players on the team, right? What's a few of the players you'd normally see in a business, Brian?
It's CEO, who's in charge, who's making sure everything's running. That's a big one. And then like a sales team trying to get out there and get the customers, right? That's always a big one too. Marketing right with them on that as well and get the product out. Those are some big ones that come to my mind right at the side. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, so I always feel like whoever the chief operating officer is a big deal, right? They're the ones who have to execute on giving the customer, the product or the right experience. The big thing now is technology, right? So a lot of companies now have a chief technology officer. Some companies, if they get big enough, they have a chief legal officer. And then depending on the size, you have layers and layers and layers, right? They start breaking it out. But let's just say we have a 5-person team. We have your sales team, your operations team, your technology team, your marketing team, and we'll put them in HR. We'll just call it HR/compliance. So you got that 5-person, those 5 different departments. And yeah, they usually report to a CEO. And the idea is, who does the CEO report to?
They report to owners, shareholders, whoever is trying to make sure this business, they get to benefit, financially from it.
Yeah. So a lot of our listeners might have ran their own business, so they were wearing multiple hats, right? You might have been the owner, the shareholder, you might have been the CEO, you might have also done all the operations for your company, or you might have been the sales guy, or ran the sales team. We all wear different hats in a company, and as it grows, you might change your position on the team and everything.
Right.
But the bottom line is the company's success is really tied to how well that team is tied together and how well they execute. I mean, I think of some of our businesses and really it always comes back to our team. I can have the best idea, I can have the best marketing idea, I can have the best product, but if we don't have the right team members, we fail. Like anytime we've missed on a team member, like that just wasn't the right fit, that project, that initiative, that, aspect of whatever the business was didn't come together. And if you're listening to this and you've ran a business, you're probably like, yeah, I've seen that over and over and over again, right? The right people make it happen in a business. That's just the bottom line.
And I'll attest to that too. I've never ran a business besides like a lemonade stand when I was a kid with my sister probably, but I've been on plenty of teams over time, and the teams that work together and function together and everyone knows everyone's part, and I do my part, you do your part, and we flow together. Those are the teams that have really come out on top. That I've enjoyed those jobs, first off, for one thing, but those are the teams that seem to have excelled and product that we made or the outcome we're trying to get, we really got there. Being on those teams, so I can attest being at least on the team part of it. Seeing
Yeah,
that
you feel it.
action for sure.
Yeah, you feel it when you're on the right team, right? And when it's coordinated.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when that circles back to the CEO a little bit, right?
For sure.
They're usually the one picking those team members. They're usually the one making sure they all know their role and they're all coordinating correctly. And if they aren't, then it's usually on the CEO to make the changes or adjustments to get it working. So why are we talking about that, right? Why are we talking about businesses? It's actually the exact same with how you build your team that creates your legacy. And when we talk about legacy, it can mean a lot of things, but for us, we're really talking about how your life works from this moment going forward, and then even after you've passed away. That's kind of your legacy, right? It's what you've created and what you leave behind. And really the most important part of a legacy is really the relationships and that impact. But a lot of times when we do think about legacy, our minds go to, did I do estate planning? Did I, what financial success did I have?
Right.
Maybe what money did I leave my family? And I mean that's part of it, right? That's part of it. But I think a legacy is much more than that. And in another episode, I think we'll talk about some of those, softer things of a legacy, right? Character and reputation and values that you instill, and the people you've impacted through your life, I think is the biggest part of a legacy. But when we're looking at it, most of us circle back to, yeah, what happens to my family if something happens to me? What legacy did I leave if I pass away, and how does that look like? And the bottom line is, just like when you built your business, and as you are building your business, the better team you have, and the way that team is structured makes the outcome of that legacy way different than if you had the wrong team. In fact, if you have the wrong team, it could be a complete debacle. And we've seen that. And we could tell stories all day. We probably won't, but
I'm sure you've had it on this podcast too.
Yeah.
Go
If you
listen
listen
to many of the episodes, right?
Yeah, if you listen to some of the previous episodes, you'll definitely hear, stories where the person had the wrong team or strategy and just ruined their family and ruined their legacy. And that's similar to, when a business fails, it can be caused by that, right? It can be by having the wrong team and the wrong people. So here at Voyant Legal, we have changed our approach over the years to where we really feel like you need to look at it a little more like you looked at it for your business. We call it a legacy office approach, but the idea is quite similar to a business, right? Like when you built your marketing team and your sales team and all the different people, you coordinated all of that very carefully. And you might have outsourced maybe a little bit of it here and there, right? Like usually it makes sense at different times for a company to outsource something that's really niche or specific. But all your core and most important people worked in the company and was all on the same team and were all coordinated. So it's kind of interesting when we go out to, build our team that's going to help us with our legacy. Families don't do the same thing. Well, there are some, and we'll talk about that, where we see this the most, but they don't build their team the same way. They might have a CPA over here that they have a relationship with. They have an attorney over there that they have a relationship with. They have a financial advisor, investment advisor, and maybe they have some other consultants that they talk to about what they're doing. And then those individuals rarely talk, rarely coordinate. They a lot of times find out what's going on after the fact. Oh yeah, I went ahead and did this because when I talked to my CPA, they said to set up this business. Or, hey, I went ahead and did this because I talked to my attorney, he said to set this up. Or I talked to my financial advisor, he said to set this up. And because none of them coordinates, there's a lot of missed opportunities. And the legacy they're building is actually not the legacy they want.
And I've seen that in this role as an estate planning attorney, where I've given counsel and say go talk to this person, and then they come back and say, well, they said this, and they're like, okay, well, we got to kind of work this out. And I've also been in the room where, okay, financial advisor is here and we are working together and kind of seeing this together and working through that. And so I've seen both sides of those. And when professionals are working together and in the client's interests, communication just those barriers come down. It's just so much easier to trying to get to from A to B. You want to get to B. It's so much easier to get there when there's the communication is there, for sure.
So where we see this the most is what a lot of times they refer to as a family office. And with ultra high net worth individuals, usually they will hire a whole team just to manage their wealth and their legacy, right? They even have like a CEO who coordinates their financial, their legal, their business strategies. And, it's a very different, they have very different problems. They have different objectives, different goals. So they handpick a team and bring them all together. And their focus is, what do we need to do for our client? Or another way to look at it is it's similar to all those team members in a business. They're focusing on, hey, what does the owner want us to do? What do our shareholders need us to do?
Yeah.
And how do we make this business successful? And so this family office concept has been around for a minute, but it's really just primarily been used by some of the highest net worth individuals, and they keep using it because it's extremely successful. So what we have realized is that strategy and approach is also extremely beneficial to people who aren't ultra high net worth. I mean, obviously, if you have several $1,000,000, you probably can't afford to hire a whole full-time team, right? That wouldn't be
Right.
economical. But you still benefit substantially from having that high level of coordination like a family office. And so that's why we call ours a legacy office and not a family office. So we don't want people to be confused that, oh, we just are only going to help people who are, over $50 million. We can help people who have several $1,000,000 but aren't kind of at that threshold where they would hire, an individual full time for every position. And so the nice thing about the legacy office approach is it brings all those key people under the same roof and allows them to coordinate very carefully. Now, I've tried to coordinate with all my clients, professionals, right? Like if someone's not, part of our legacy office, I try to keep, their CPAs in the loop. I try to keep their financial planners in the loop.
Yeah.
I try my best to coordinate with them. But the reality is they have different missions, they have different training, they have different knowledge bases. Like sometimes I talk to a CPA or a financial advisor and they've never heard of what I'm talking about. And so they just have to say, well, let me get back to you. And then they get back to me and they can't like really participate in the planning. So when I have a conversation with one of our team members, right, one of our tax specialists or one of our financial planners that work with Voyant Wealth or with one of the other attorneys on our team, my conversation is, hey, this is what I think would work really well for the client. And then I get a great dialogue back. Hey, actually, have you thought about this yet? And then be like, oh, that's a good idea. And then what if we also did this? And there's this amazing synergy that goes on where we all have a similar philosophy and approach and understanding, and we are familiar with all of the similar strategies that we use for clients. So when we start talking about how to help them, we actually are on the same page and we're able to identify what would help them the most. Versus I call somebody and I'm like, hey, we're thinking of doing this for their client. And they're like, okay, explain to me why that would be a good strategy. And so then by the time you're done explaining why it'd be a good strategy, then they're like, okay, how does that strategy work? Okay, well then you got to explain to them how the strategy works. And then they're like, okay, I think I understand what we're doing there, but they don't have any high level, they just have the high level understanding now. So for them to go back to the client and give them really good advice, yes, that's perfect, that's a good fit. This is how I'll help with that strategy. This is how I can help it work better. They're just not able to do it unless they're going to go spend substantial amount of time and energy getting up to speed and learning what we would have hoped they already had known. And since they didn't know it, they don't really help with it. And it just makes the whole process um, clunky and it cannot work. And so that's where having this legacy office strategy is so impactful. Have you seen that a little bit, Brian, where you've tried to loop in another professional and they're just not on the same page?
Yeah, it happens. And you're stuck kind of just explaining a couple things, and it's like, did you understand it in the end? And really making sure that things are going. I can think of a client like, just trying to explain some of the new tax rules around, the qualified accounts and things like that. And so going through that with people, but then I can think of a client too that was in office, and we helped them in office, and we got them a great plan, both on the estate planning side and their financial side. And she was so thankful, and the client was just saying, "Hey, this is so great to have it all under one roof." I met with the client, and then her financial team met with the client right after me, almost every single time, just to make sure that what I was doing and what they were doing were in line, and it just flowed, and it went really well for this client, and they were able to get what they needed out of the whole situation, from both an estate planning perspective and financial perspective. At least in this client's case, it was really awesome to see that.
So I'd love to give an example where we didn't see that to really maybe set the risk of having kind of what I call a fragmented team or an outsourced team, right?
Yeah.
Instead of having it all under one roof and having a coordinated team like you would run a business, right? So I was doing a review with a client, successful business, right? Was doing, over 10 million a year in sales. That's great. That's hard work to get to there in a company. You have to, work hard. Um, and generating really good profits, doing a really great job. And we were looking at how they were set up from a business standpoint, estate plan standpoint, tax plan standpoint, financial plan standpoint. And as I was going through the different things they were doing, and we were looking at how they had structured it, I I kind of made some good notes, and I said, okay, I'm going to come back at our next meeting and just highlight the things I think would be, the top priority to address. I think there's a lot of things here that we could improve and do better, but yeah, let's just make the list of priorities, and then you give us the feedback of where we should start. And so we started actually with some of the early tax planning strategies that would work for them. And that one we felt like should be a high priority for them because they're paying a lot in taxes, right? They had a successful business, it was generating income. They weren't really optimized.
Tax strategies that are out there?
They were not. So we went through the meeting. I had three tax strategies for them, tax mitigation strategies for them. We talked about how they work. They all three would work well for them, and then I told them like which one I thought fit them perfectly. And at the end of the meeting, they're like, why hasn't any of my other advisors ever brought this up to me, right? Like, why hasn't my financial advisor brought this up to me? Why hasn't my CPA brought this up to me? And they had used legal counsel for the business, like general legal counsel and stuff. Why didn't I bring this up to me? And one of the strategies, they're like, oh, someone told us about this before, but they said we couldn't do it. And I'm like, I don't know why they'd say you couldn't do it. Like, you're perfect. You meet, like, you check every box 3 times over.
Candidate, yeah.
So I'm not sure why. And like the reality, Brian, is for the last 5 years, if we would have we would have, done that coordination and that meeting 5 years earlier, I mean, we're talking millions and millions of dollars of taxes that they were overpaying because they didn't set up their planning and their strategy right. And
I hear that millions and millions of dollars. Oh, that just ache. My heart just like drops for them almost. But
I know it's like, I mean, I try not to focus on that. I'm like, hey, we're gonna focus. Hey, we're gonna save over the next couple of
right.
years, right? But like, your mind does it. Your mind does the math, and their mind's doing the math too. Like, oh, I could
Exactly.
have
Exactly.
I could have saved all that money, and that adds up a lot. Like, if you just think, hey, I'm saving $100,000 a year in taxes over 10 years, and that money's being reinvested, that's a big number.
It's true.
Now, I'm not good enough at numbers in my head to tell you exactly what that number is.
Oh, me neither.
You
No.
neither? Okay.
Big number. How about that? Just big
But
number.
it's a big number. So that was a really interesting conversation. And actually, where we got looped in to start working with them was there was a legal issue with the business that was creating some potential lawsuits. And anyways, we were just reviewing their asset protection strategy, right? And everything I think's going to get resolved okay with the lawsuits, but the structure was not right. They were going to be exposed in a lot of ways if the lawsuit didn't go their way, and so that adds up to it. And then you go to the next layer, right? There was nothing in the planning for if anything happens to the owners and the people driving the bus.
Yeah.
And so there's just all these opportunities for them to substantially improve their situation. So when I was able to talk to him, like, hey, like, why a lot of this stuff got missed wasn't necessarily because some of the people you're working with aren't smart, don't know what they're doing, aren't good, whatever, attorney,
Exactly.
CPA, financial planner. They think their lane is this. They think their lane is I'm supposed to file the tax return, or their lane is I just need to make sure their entity is organized and they have a contract for their customers. Or I think I'm just trying to make sure they have enough money at retirement, which is what they're supposed to be doing. But if they look just to the right a little bit and they see a different path that would be way better, right? Maybe this is probably a bad analogy I'm going down, but we'll just keep going down it.
Keep
Like
going.
they see the shortcut, they could get to the place an hour earlier
Right.
and with half as much time and money and energy, and they're just like, no, I can't take that turn. That's not my lane. Then that just gets missed, and we just see families miss opportunity after opportunity because of the fragmented team isn't able to coordinate those opportunities for them.
And that makes sense. That makes total sense for sure.
So do
Uh,
you?
Go ahead.
Oh, so I was just gonna say. So do you see families express any frustration with that, like the lack of coordination, or do you feel like um, it's not something that comes up tons when you're meeting with people?
It comes up. I mean, I have a lot of families, the whole gambit of families, right? Just people who are in retirement, they're just looking for an estate plan. Or I've plenty of business owners that come in and say, hey, we need to make sure that everything is tied up with our business and what's going on. It happens. People mention it all the time of, okay, my CPA is saying this and financial advisor is saying this, and I wish there was a little bit more coordination between it all. So I do see it. Um, and I'm glad that like this is something that we are looking into and really trying to provide for our clients. Just to be able to have it under one roof, and be able to coordinate within office with all of our professionals and advisors here that we work with to be able to just keep it together, and whatnot.
Yeah, so for anyone listening to this episode, like we just challenge you to think about your strategy for creating your legacy. and kind of figure out where you fit into the picture, right? Are you more that owner who wants the right CEO and wants the right team and making, you're the one painting the vision, you're painting the strategy, you're you're creating those goals and objectives, and then your team is coming back to you and saying, "Hey, this is how we get there. This is the best way we get there. We've coordinated, we've thought, we've really thought about this, and this is how we're going to execute for you." Right? Or is it better fit to, "Hey, I'm going to outsource each one of these items. I'm going to outsource the marketing, sales, operations, and do some coordinating, and that would work for me." And I think there's some people that would work for them, right? Like if you get to the really simplistic situations, I think that strategy is fine. But for most our clients, the legacy office is just such a superior approach, and it's a game changer, and we're really excited we get to do that for them. We're talking of kind of other examples of what this is like. We use the business example, but I feel like for people who are listening who aren't business people, I feel like the sports analogy was a pretty good one too. What do you think? Like the one I like the best is maybe a football team and they don't have the same playbook. I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
No, I agree. Well, in the football team, you have, look, I didn't play football, but there's offense, there's defense, there's special teams, you have all these different players, and within each group you have your individual, wide receivers and quarterbacks and defensive line and the kicker, and just all these players. They each have a different role. I think it'd be fun. Let's go watch a football game where we have a kicker from Team A and a quarterback from Team B and defensive lineman from Team C, and just see how they do. Like I'm sure it'd be an interesting situation, right? To figure it out. But
But
with
if you
the
put
football
them,
team,
oh, if you put them against a team,
well coordinated and well grouped. I mean, you could probably look. I say that, and I'm sure that people are like, "Well, look at this team and look at that team." I'm not into sports enough to say, "Well, I bet." Anyway, whatever. I'm not gonna go
I
down
would.
that.
I watch enough sports, and like I think if you just threw a bunch of really good players on a team and they didn't get to practice, they didn't have a playbook, and
Yeah,
then you put them against a mediocre team, who's all coordinated, the mediocre team would kill
probably
them.
come together, right?
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing with I think planning your legacy or running your business or
And I
anything you're
think
doing
this
that's
so
impactful.
to help me just make sure that the analogy comes together in my mind. Whether it's a business with marketing, sales, and HR, and technology, all these different components, or a football team that has offense and defense and special teams, legacy planning has estate planning, tax mitigation planning, wealth planning, just all these different pieces that really, when it comes together and it's all coordinated together and it's on the same team, it can really grow and it can really be effective. And I don't want to use, I'm going to use the word dominate, but like you can really
Yeah.
see the growth that
Crushing.
comes from it. Yeah, it's a structure that you get that really just helps out and putting it together.
Well, I think we hit it. I think we covered it, Brian. Any last words before we wrap up?
I think this is awesome. I'm excited to be part of this. I'm not like when I joined Violent Legal almost 3 years ago, and I thought, hey, I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna draft trusts for people, and I'm happy to do so. But the vision that you've had this whole time that I've been here has just been it's leaps and bounds of just being able to really provide for our clients and everything that they need. It's so much more than just. Again, I'm coming from an estate planning perspective. It's more than just an estate plan. Like we really have so much in our lives that just work together and need to be coordinated. I'm happy to be part of this and to be able to help out my little part in helping clients and what we're doing here.
Yeah, and Brian's being modest. He's an awesome estate planner, and that's the thing. We really do love our team, and I think that's what makes it so fun to do the legacy office model instead of just traditional estate planning. So, well, thanks everyone for joining us. We hope you learned something today, and we hope it helps you and your family.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been listening to Legacy Lawyers with Michael Haslam and Nathan Croxford. We give you the juicy detail of cases that our law firm has dealt with. We take out the lawyer talk and legalese and show you what options some of our clients had to choose from to fix their situation. The effects of not doing planning can be devastating. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook and Instagram at Voyant Legal. Call us at 801-951-0500 or send us an email at team@voyantlegal.com. And for commonly asked questions, hit voyantlegal.com/resources. We'll see you next time.